Okay, I'm turning the video and the audio on. Can you hear me? I have a virtual background. Sometimes it freezes the audio as well.
Yes, we can see you and hear you. Thank you.
I also want to say there's a new virtual background they've added where you can sit inside an active volcano with lava. That's a new one right there. I'll put it back on this phone if that's not freezing things.
Good morning. My name is Julia Rady. I'm the chair of the Toronto Preservation Board. The clerk has confirmed that we have quorum, so I will now call meeting 27 of the Toronto Preservation Board to order. This is a hybrid meeting with some members, staff, and public attending in person, and others connecting by video conference over the WebEx platform or calling in. This meeting is also being live streamed online at youtube.com/Toronto City Council Live. Because we are meeting in person and remotely, we ask for your patience with any delays and technical issues as I swivel here and to screens and all around, but I'm glad that we can meet together today. If you are registered to speak at today's meeting, please listen for me to call your name. I will call speakers in the order they appear on the list. The list of speakers can be viewed online by visiting Toronto Preservation Board at toronto.ca/council and clicking the speakers box for today's meeting. I would like to request that staff and invited participants, as well as all observers joining remotely, keep their video turned off unless they need to speak or answer questions. This will make it easier for me as chair to see the members as we debate and vote on the agenda items. I also ask that members keep their microphones muted unless you wish to question staff or speak to an item. If members wish to speak on an item, please make sure your video is on and raise your hand or unmute your mic and indicate your intention to speak, and I will create a speakers list. And when voting on an item or a motion, I ask members to turn on your video and raise your hand to indicate your vote. If there is a recorded vote, you will be asked to state if you are in favor or opposed. Members, the City Clerk has provided all agenda materials on toronto.ca/council. As a reminder, please submit and approve your motions by email. Staff are available at hertpb@toronto.ca to help with motions. So although we may be meeting in different locations today, the Preservation Board would like to acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? If you do have an interest, please raise your hand or unmute your mic and indicate the item number and the nature of your interest. Are there any declarations at this time?
Madam Chair, I have a conflict for PB 27.4, 86 Lombard. I'm a planning consultant for the applicant, and I've submitted the appropriate form to the clerk already.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Peter. Are there any other declarations of interest? Seeing none, may I have a motion to confirm the minutes from our meeting on January 8th, 2025? From Paul, all those in favor? Adam, are you in favor of the, awesome, thank you. The motion carries. So now we'll do the agenda review. The first item is PB 27.1, 2930 Lakeshore Boulevard West, notice of intention to designate a property under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act. There is a presentation from Heritage Planning staff available if the board would like to hear it. Would anybody like to hold this item? Adam, you'd like to hold it? Moving on then. The next item is PB 27.2, 667 King Street West, notice of intention to designate a property under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Again, we have a presentation from Heritage Planning staff available. If we would like to hear it, does anybody want to hold this item? Adam, thank you. The next item is PB 27.3, 1660 Kingston Road, notice of intention to designate a property under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act. There are public speakers registered on this item, so I will hold it. And our final item is PB 27.4, 86 Lombard Street, alterations to a designated heritage property and removal of a building on a designated property under sections 33 and 34(1)(2) of the Ontario Heritage Act. We have public speaker on this item, and I'm going to just take a moment and ask if that speaker is here with a presentation or here to answer questions.
Hello, Madam Chair. I think that's myself.
Yes, it is, Casper. Hi.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I do not have a presentation for the item. I'm just here to answer questions if there are any of the board.
Perfect. That's helpful going in. So does anybody else on the board wish to hold this item? Adam, thank you very much. So moving back to PB 27.1, 2930 Lakeshore Boulevard West. And we welcome Patrick to the floor.
Through the chair, before Patrick starts, I just want to let everybody know that this is the first of what I suspect and hope will be many designations that are coming forward as a result of the review of the listed properties in the city due to the Bill 23 changes to the Heritage Register. So we had hoped we would have all 4 districts on this agenda, but the North York one is coming in, I guess, 12 days. We have 2 meetings on top of each other. So this represents an important moment, I think, and I just wanted to let the board know. Also to let you know that these are the first designations in a long time that are coming forward without being in the context of a development application. So we will likely be spending time with the owners to walk them through the process. Thank you.
There we go. And I'll be presenting on PB 27.1, 2930 Lakeshore Boulevard West, notice of intention to designate a property under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act. The property at 2930 Lakeshore Boulevard West, formerly the New Toronto Post Office, is located on the northeast corner of Lakeshore Boulevard West and Islington Avenue in the downtown area of New Toronto. The property is comprised of a 2-story flat roof structure constructed in 1935 and a 1.5-story flat roofed annex to the east constructed in 1960-1961. Together, the 1935 structure and 1960-61 annex feature limestone cladding, polished black granite foundation and coping, and flat-headed window and door openings with stone sills and voussoirs. The 1935 structure also features a cornice of 4 courses of alternating polished black granite and limestone. Next slide, please. The New Toronto Post Office has design and physical value as a fine and representative example of a small-scale public building constructed as part of the interwar period. Designed in the stripped classical style with Art Deco elements, it reflects the transition towards modernism that typifies this period. Its flattened classical details, including cornice of contrasting stonework bands, flattened pilasters, and imposing door surround flanked by fluted columns, are hallmarks of stripped classicism, while the strong planarity of the contrasting bands of limestone and black granite at the cornice and interior plasterwork of the lobby reflect the influence of Art Deco. Constructed as part of the Public Works Construction Act of 1934, its scale and high-quality materials, including exterior and interior stonework, are particularly fine when compared to smaller-scale public buildings constructed after new design guidelines were introduced in 1936 to reduce costs. Designed to complement the 1935 structure, the 1960-61 edition features the same limestone cladding above a polished black granite foundation and coping and pilasters between the windows. Next slide, please. The property has value for its association with the Canadian postal system, which underwent considerable change in the 1930s as a result of the Public Works Construction Act. Constructed in 1935, the property's individual design, finally executed in high-quality materials on both the exterior and interior, is reflective of this period. The property has additional associative value for its contribution to the understanding of the historical development and evolution of New Toronto as an independent community, where the property, like many post offices, occupies a prominent location at the center of the community. While heritage planning staff recognize the historical value of the original brass postal table, shown in the center of the postal hall in the 1935 photograph at left, and in its current location in the photograph in the bottom right, it is not considered a heritage attribute due to it not being affixed to the property. Staff are willing to explore with the property owner other ways to ensure the preservation of this table. Next slide, please. Constructed to house New Toronto's post office by the Government of Canada in 1935, when Lakeshore Boulevard West between 5th and 9th Streets emerged as New Toronto's downtown, the property is physically, functionally, visually, and historically linked to its surroundings. It is important in defining, supporting, and maintaining the small-town commercial Main Street character of Lakeshore Boulevard West between 4th Street and 9th Street. Prominently located at the center of New Toronto's downtown, where it anchors the northeast corner of Lakeshore Boulevard West and Islington Avenue, the property has served as a community landmark since 1935. Following research and evaluation, the property at 2930 Lakeshore Boulevard West merits designation for its physical design, historical associative, and contextual value. At this time, staff would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the property owners, Wood Green Community Services, for their stewardship of the New Toronto Post Office building. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So there are no speakers on this item, and I'm just going to wait to see the rest of the board for me. Perfect. Do we have questions for staff? Adam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have two questions. I will ask them one at a time. The first is, do we know whether this building was one of the ones featured on that 1939 royal visit? I know the Lakeshore Boulevard, that was the first highway in Canada, and it was a big feature on that royal tour. Do we know if there's any connection to that visit? The Queen one?
Through the chair, through our research, we did not come across that information. We did have a dossier of historical newspaper articles regarding its construction, but there we did not come across any information in relation to the 1939 royal visit.
Thank you.
Second question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Patrick, could you speak a bit more about the potential preservation of the tables, or what tools may be available to ensure the preservation of that feature? I think this is quite unique. I've not quite heard before of furniture being protected, but it's a lovely step forward.
Through the chair, at this point, it's a very preliminary. We're at the very beginning, so we are just looking at how we could possibly do that, and I think Mary can elaborate on that.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, I just want to say that in fact the table is not able to be included and is not a heritage attribute. It is considered to be chattel and not within the definition of real property for the Heritage Act. So I'm sorry, Adam, if you felt like that was a step forward, but it's a step we actually can't take. But I would say that Wood Green are very, very fine stewards of the property, as Patrick has mentioned. They are aware of the value of the table, and so we're not concerned about its its whereabouts. We will be recommending perhaps that there be some discussion about a future home for the table, should there one be needed, but that wouldn't be within the work under the Heritage Act.
Thank you. Are there other questions of staff? Adam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Back to Mary, are there other tools that are not part of the Heritage Act that might be explored for that table?
No, it's privately owned, so it would be up to Wood Green to decide whether or not they wanted to donate it somewhere, which is certainly possible, but I don't want to presume anything. It would be a private arrangement.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions of staff? Seeing none, discussion amongst ourselves? Adam?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really want to congratulate staff and everyone on bringing forward the first of what I hope is many properties for designation from the listing review. This is a phenomenal step forward.
Very much agreed. Other discussion points? Seeing none, I have a staff report before me with recommendations. Would anybody care to move the recommendations of those report? Paul, thank you very much. All those in favor? Motion carries. Very good. Moving on now to PB 27.2, 667 King Street West. And we welcome Clint to the floor.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Clint Robertson, a heritage planner at the City of Toronto, and I'll be presenting PB 27.2, 667 King Street West, Notice of Intention to Designate a Property under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Next slide, please. The subject property is located at the southwest corner of King Street West and Bathurst Street in the Queen West neighborhood. Next slide. The building on the property at 667 King Street West is known as the Wheat Chief Tavern and contains a 2.5-story former inn and tavern on a rectangular plan that is fashioned in the Second Empire style detail. A pre-Confederation building that was constructed in 1849, the property is a rare surviving example of an early 19th century hotel and bar that has been in operation at the same location for over 150 years. The Wheat Chief Tavern continues to be the oldest bar in Toronto and serves as a neighborhood landmark. Next slide, please. The property was included on the City of Toronto's inaugural Inventory of Heritage Properties over 50 years ago in 1973 and is listed on the Heritage Register. Staff have determined that the property at 667 King Street West has cultural heritage value and meets 6 of the Ontario Regulation 906 criteria prescribed for municipal designation under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act. The property at 667 King Street West has design and physical value as a, pardon me. Sorry, let me start that again. The property at 667 King Street West has design and physical value as a rare surviving pre-Confederation example of the hotels that came to define the City of Toronto during the mid-19th century with Second Empire style details. The style can be seen throughout the building in features such as the mansard roof with round-headed arched dormer windows with ornamental scrollwork in the wooden surrounds, the wooden brackets at the eaves and pediment, the truncated corner tower, and the primary corner entrance. The subject property has additional design and physical value as it displays a high degree of craftsmanship through its Second Empire style details that were restored 1995 to 96. The property at 667 King Street West is valued for its association with the Wheat Chief Tavern, a business that has continued to serve the community in this location for over 150 years, from stagecoach travelers to soldiers, students, and live musical and sports lovers. Contextually, the Wheat Chief Tavern is important in defining, maintaining, and supporting the historic character of the West Queen West neighborhood today, and is physically, visually, and historically linked to its surroundings, where it holds a prominent position on the southwest corner of King Street West and Bathurst Street. The subject property at 667 King Street West is the only remaining intact historic structure at the intersection and is among the rare few pre-Confederation buildings that continues in operation today. A pre-Confederation building in operation for over 150 years, the Wheat Chief Tavern continues to be the oldest bar in Toronto and serves as a neighborhood landmark. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There are no speakers registered on this item, but do we have questions of staff? Adam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have two questions. The first is, could Clint kindly speak a bit more about the evolution of the building over time? It's my understanding it was not originally a Second Empire building. It's changed.
Yes, through the chair. I was not the author of this report. I'm presenting this report. So it was constructed in 1849. I don't have a historic photograph of the building, so I cannot speak to that.
Okay. Not to worry. Thank you. Madam Chair, may I continue with the second question?
Go for it.
Thank you. Was any consideration given for 669 King Street West, which is physically connected to the building on the west side, in terms of heritage status for that building?
Through the chair, it's Tamara and Cartwright. No, our assignment was to look at the prioritization of listed properties, and this was the one that was identified for us to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamara.
Other questions of staff? Seeing none, or Adam, do you have another one?
I'll hold it for now. Thank you.
Okay. So with no further questions, we move into discussion amongst ourselves. Does anybody have any discussion points to raise? Adam.
Our panel will be bringing forward a nomination for 669 in the near future. There's some interesting, it looks to be potentially a very early house form building, but we'll send more information when we have a chance. Thank you.
Fantastic. Other discussion points? Seeing none, we have a staff report before us with recommendations. Would anybody like to move the recommendations of the report? Adam, thank you very much. All those in favor, please. Motion carries. Fantastic. Moving on now to PB 27.3, 1660 Kingston Road. Notice of intention to designate a property under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act. And I think, Clint, you get to hang around for this one.
Good morning. Again, Clint Robertson, Heritage Planner with City of Toronto. This presentation relates to item PB 27.3, 1660 Kingston Road, Notice of Intention to Designate a Property under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Next slide, please. As indicated on the slide, the subject property is located on the north side of Kingston Road between Birchcliff Avenue and Birchmount Road in the Cliffside neighborhood of Scarborough. The property was listed on the City of Toronto's Heritage Register in 2006. Next slide, please. Heritage planning staff determined that the property meets 5 of 9 criteria under Ontario Regulation 906. First, built in 1921 to 22, the property has design value and physical value because it's a fine and representative example of the neoclassical style of architecture adapted to a modest bank branch building, with the goal of projecting stability and permanence through the building's architectural design, timeless classical style features, and an ornament distinguishing the building. Characteristically, the building features general symmetry, a roofline parapet and pediment above a broad cornice, and a formal doorway surrounds with bold entablatures. Additional classical finishes include window keystones, rounded windows, and brickwork that forms pilasters. Befitting the elegant design, premium materials including tapestry brick cladding on the structure with smoothly dressed stone serve for the detailing. The building followed the Bank of Commerce preference for classical design, which the company architect V.D. Hornsberg employed for branch locations. Next slide, please. The property has historical value for its institutional role in municipal government for the township of Scarborough. For over a quarter century, from 1922 to 1949, The second floor of the property served as the seat of the Township Council. During this time, the building served as the council chambers for a largely rural township, being the center of township governance. During its local government use, some municipal departments, including assessment and building inspector, also operated out of the building from the 1930s to the mid-1940s. And the image on the slide showing the side door shows the staircase, the second floor where those offices were located. Next slide, please. The property has contextual value because of its physical, functional, visual, and historical linkages to its surroundings. The subject property contributes to marking the distinct historic commercial core of the former village of Birchcliff. Birchcliff was a settlement in the township of Scarborough, which originated with the establishment of the post office and store in 1907 at Kingston Road and Birchmount Avenue, 3 blocks east of the subject property. Prior to this, cottagers from Toronto began to settle the area in the 1890s with the arrival of the street railway extension along Kingston Road to Midland Avenue in 1901, and development of the area was then facilitated. By the early 1920s, when 1660 Kingston Road was constructed as the Bank of Commerce, commercial development of the village spanned 5 blocks of Kingston Road. The former Bank of Commerce was situated at the center of this nascent commercial area, and continues to recall the historical commercial core of the Birchcliff community. The building's role as a bank from 1922 to 2003 made it integral to the Main Street function and fabric of Birchcliff's commercial core. Next, sorry, not next slide. The property has contextual value also because it's important in defining, maintaining, and supporting the character of the area. The property is a key contributing building in marking the early 20th century commercial core of Birchcliff. It's one of a dwindling number of early institutional and commercial buildings in the historic core of Birchcliff stretching along Kingston Road, and contributes to this concentration. With the adjacent 6 retail and residential units comprising the mid-1920s Birchcliff Plaza, the property at 1660 Kingston Road helps constitute an early intact 20th century streetscape. The final slide, please. The property has contextual value also because it's a landmark. The property also has contextual value as a landmark in the Birchcliff community. The architectural quality of the building and its prominent corner location makes it distinctive on Kingston Road, the principal route from Toronto to points east. Its presence as a financial institution in the community for more than 80 years and its civic use as township council chambers and municipal offices for over a quarter century further contribute to the property's status as a landmark. And that concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Clint. We have one speaker registered on this item. Irene McKeith, please correct me if I've mispronounced your name. You'll have 5 minutes. They're not online. We're going to give just a moment here. Oh, hi, sorry.
Hi there.
Would you like to...
I can come forward if you like.
Microphone? Yeah, so you're welcome. I'm so used to everything being online. This is a... Thank you for coming down today.
I didn't mean to clear the room, sorry.
No, it's all good. You have 5 minutes, and I will gesticulate wildly when you're about 30 seconds left.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Irene McKeith Peters. I am the owner of 1660 Kingston Road. I've been the owner of this property since 2003. I feel I am the guardian and keeper of this property. I have endured many things to survive the challenges of the economy and COVID and all the things that come with city repairs and on all the beauty of maintaining and keeping a commercial property. My love of this building is beyond, but you understand, I only found out about this meeting yesterday afternoon when I received your documents. So I've not had time to seek counsel or get any advice on perhaps the downside of being designated a heritage building. I feel I maybe will need to do some more research and find out what I need to do to be informed a little bit more about this. We've struggled with many things, the challenges of infrastructure through the city, and I tell you, I stand at the door and I guard the property with my life. When the city tried to do maintenance and repairs to the roads, they had streetscape coming in and putting in modern planters and modern gardens, and I told them, I said, please, think about the integrity and the beauty of this beautiful space. Why would you put something so horrible and modern in front of this beautiful creature? So you understand my love of this property is everything. I truly believe I need a little more time to be more informed, and I want you to know I'm honored that this is, you know, your desire to do so, but please understand I'd like to have the ability to prepare myself for the next meeting. As I say, I just got the letter yesterday afternoon, so I'm ill prepared, so I apologize. Please know it's very much a part of my business, and I am a cornerstone in the community. I believe our business has served well there, and the building is very much an integral part of my business, so it's everything to me. So I just wanted to thank you, but I really do need time to prepare for the next meeting. I do worry about the designation. You know, there are implications of renovation or repair or expansion. I mean, what do I need to do any of those things? Will I have issues with that? I mean, even for refinancing, or if I have investors, you know, people do get leery when it's a designated building. I've heard that, I've seen that, I've experienced that with people that have commercial property. So these are my concerns right now, and I just feel I am not prepared today, but I will be for the next meeting to have more questions. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do we have questions for our speaker? Seeing none at the moment. Thank you so much for making. Oh, Adam.
Madam
Hi,
Chair,
Adam.
it's Adam. Yes, I do have a question for the speaker. Thank you for coming down today to Depute. I'm just wondering if you might elucidate if there's particular classes of concerns you have. Is it around potential future uses of the property? Is it you feel that potentially there's too much restriction? I'm sure the staff here could allay some of your concerns. I certainly recognize your concern as well as wanting more time to learn about the designation and its protocols. But we do have some very, very educated staff members here who are probably more than able to also help allay those concerns here as well.
Yes, I thank you for that. I actually phoned the offices, and I was speaking to a couple of members on the staff, and they prepared me for today quickly, but I am so grateful to be able to hopefully reach out and get some more information as I proceed to the next meeting.
Thank you. Other questions of our speaker? Seeing none, we're going to move to questions to staff. Thank you so much for coming down today, Irene. That was lovely. I'm going to lead off a question and ask, we clearly have a very concerned owner, and what steps can mitigate those concerns going forward? What are the next steps in this process? And the second part to that is, would this process still be undergoing, because the property is listed anyway? So I think it's just sort of to expand on what would happen to this property.
Sure. Through the chair, first I would like to say thank the owner for being extraordinarily good steward of this extraordinary property. Unfortunately, we sent a letter several weeks ago. The owner did not get it at that time. We're hoping with the Bill 23 reports that we can have dialogue with owners before the meetings happen. So we waited for the end of the postal strike, and then we got it in the mail right after. So I apologize if this is coming late for you. So The thing about these is, because we are not in a development scenario, we're not in any urgency, and the owner is clearly protective of the property and has a right to understand. We certainly will continue. We've spoken already. We will continue the dialogue. And this report would not be seen again until the March Planning and Housing meeting. So there is a significant amount of time before that meeting to speak with the owner and to help her to understand what this means. Just to pique your interest, as a commercial property, you are eligible for our Heritage Property Tax Rebate Program, which I'm sure you've heard. So there are upsides to this. So we certainly will do everything we can to help the owner understand what it means, and also what her appeal rights would be. The whole process, we'll walk her through it.
Thank you. Other questions of staff? Seeing none, thank you very much, Clint, and we'll move into discussion amongst ourselves. Does anybody want to raise any discussion? Yeah, Matthew.
Hi, I'd just like to chime in my voice also in thanking staff for bringing this forward as one of the listed property reviews. This is, a property that the Scarborough panel has sort of had on its watch list of buildings we've been looking at. I believe just a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about it at our last panel meeting. And while there's just to sort of add on to what Mary was saying about there's no urgency, and while that's true in the sense that there's no application, development application going along with this, just of course with the changes to the provincial legislation and the upcoming delisting of properties in January 1st, 2027 or 26? My mind's going. Is that, we need to start looking at these listed properties, and that's why it's the importance of it coming forward now. So I'd just like to thank staff again for bringing that forward.
Thank you, Matthew. Other discussion points? Paul.
Yeah, I was just going to, I get a 2-for-1 here, because I was going to say this for the Lakeshore property, but I'll say it again. It's just really good to see properties that are associated with the distinct communities outside of the downtown core that we need to include in our conservation. So it's really good to see this property going forward. And I think it's a case where the heritage value of this property is I think pretty clear. The impacts on the owner is something that can be dealt with, but certainly as far as this board's concerned and our responsibilities, I mean, I think the heritage attributes are pretty defensible. So.
I'm in agreement with you, Paul, that the matters before us is, what the heritage values and if it merits designation as per the recommendations. And I would hope that the owner takes heart that there is a lot of time before the Planning and Housing Committee so that you do have that space to understand what the process is going forward. In my experience, sometimes it's better to know, which you get with designation, than the unknown, which is what you have with listing. I'm a big believer in the more evidence, the more we know, the more that you can be proactive going forward. So I think I'm hopeful that this process will be a good one for you and that you've got time. Are there other points of discussion? Seeing none, we have a report with recommendations before us. Would anybody like to move the recommendations of the report? Matthew, thank you very much. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving on now to our last item, PB 27.486 Lombard Street, and we're going to say so long to Peter because he's declared a conflict on this item, which means, and I'm going to forget, I know later, we have to do a recorded vote. And I say this always at the beginning, and then I always forget at the end. So I'm trusting everybody else to keep me honest here. We have both a public presentation and then, should the board wish it, a confidential one, and then we'll have a motion to move in camera. So this might take a little bit more juggling just because of the hybrid nature of it, but I think we can work with it. And so I'll turn it over to staff for their presentation.
Great, thank you. Through the chair, I'm Neil McKay, presenting agenda item PB 27.4, alterations to a designated property and removal of a building on a designated property under sections 33 and 34 of the Ontario Heritage Act. There will be a public and a confidential component to my presentation today, as it addresses matters subject to litigation, an application that has been appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal. I will make a public presentation describing the proposal, after which I will turn it over to the chair to initiate the in-camera session, where I provide staff analysis. Next slide, please. So this slide shows the location of the development site. It's 86 Lombard Street, 100 to 108 Lombard Street, and 103 Richmond Street East, which are located on the north side of Lombard Street, west of Jarvis Street, and east of Church Street in the city's Old Town neighborhood. City Council passed City of Toronto Bylaw 846/1979 that designated the property at 86 Lombard Street under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act on October 1st, 1979. The properties at 100 to 108 Lombard Street and 103 Richmond Street East are not listed on the City's Heritage Register or designated under Part 4 or Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Next slide. So as mentioned, the former morgue building at 86 Lombard Street is individually designated. It is a two-story red brick and limestone building built in 1907 to 1908 by the City of Toronto to serve as a morgue facility. The former morgue building is representative and well-crafted example of an early 20th century institutional building built in the Edwardian classical style according to Boulevard's principles. It's rectangular in form and massing, and with low pitched roof, stone cap pilasters, stone stills, lintels, stone foundation, and decorative wooden dentils and stone medallions below the eave line. The property and the former morgue building are also historically linked to the expansion of municipal services in the late 1800s, early 1900s. The property and former morgue building are contextually important in supporting and maintaining the institutional character along Lombard Street. And they're also considered, the former morgue building is considered a landmark building in the designation bylaw from 1979. The heritage property is not directly adjacent to any listed or designated heritage properties. Next slide, please. So here's an image showing the side elevation of the morgue building on the left, as well as images on the right showing the non-original rear additions, including the morgue annex looking south from Richmond Street East, and the garage looking north from Lombard Street. Sorry. Next slide. And here is a key map of 86 Lombard Street showing the morgue building, morgue annex, and garage. Next slide. So thank you. That concludes the public portion of the presentation.
Thank you very much. Adam, I'm assuming that you would like to go in camera, given that you held the item?
If you're required to, yes. It's general questions around commemoration strategy and this project, so probably yes, that's a good idea.
Yeah, we'll move in camera. So we're going to turn over to clerks to put up our motion. That the Toronto Preservation Board meet in closed session to receive advice that is subject to litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality of the local board for item PB 27.4. All members in favor of moving in camera? Adam, thank you. Motion carries. And we're going to give clerks a moment to close the room, both online and here. And we're back in public session. Is there any discussion amongst ourselves before we move on to the recorded vote? Seeing none, I have a staff, oh, hi, Jeff.
I just wanted to say some pleasure about the building, the whole building being conserved.
Confidential, Jeff. Confidential, Jeff. I've got to stop you. Yeah, that was part of the confidential motion. We can't talk about that here. Okay. Other public discussion points. Okay, we're gonna do a recorded vote. We have a staff report with recommendations before us. Would anybody like to move the recommendations of that report? Karash, so if you would raise your hand if you are in favor, and I will call your name. Does that work for you? Perfect. So I have Julia, Alex, Katerina, Karash, Paul, Matthew, Adam, Jeff? Are you in favor? And Jeff. Motion carries. Thus concludes our business today. So have a happy Friday, and we will see you in about 2 weeks. Meeting is adjourned.
That has to be a speed run today.
No, Adam, don't jinx it.